Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's podcast. I am here with Carol Broman, who is the chair of the Atelier program at Arts Bonita. So, Carol, can you just say hello and, tell us about what first got you into specifically Atelier, doing that specific work? What was that transition like into that?
Well, I'm essentially trying to recreate my own educational experience that I was fortunate enough to receive. So my background is I have a 4-year degree at a university, but shortly after that, I studied with a couple of artists and in a private sort of studio setting, which is essentially all that fancy French word means. It actually translates to workshop, but it is the primary way that before we had formal academies and universities, it was how information was passed on. It was how one artist kind of, passed on his craft to another artist. So you'd study with that, quote unquote, master artist. You would learn their trade. And then, of course, in turn, you would most likely be passing that information on to other students. So, and what it is, and what it isn't, I guess. So it can take various forms. I mean, if you Google Atelier art school, you're probably going to find various schools across the country, across the world. And they each have slightly differing philosophies, but they're all kind of based on this idea of graduated learning. So you start with really the fundamentals, which is drawing. And then you everything's kind of centered around studying the figure, because the figure is kind of considered, I guess, the ultimate representation of nature. And it's the most instructive, although we do work from photographs, and we also study other artists' work. It's kind of part of the curriculum. But from that drawing foundation, then you move into painting, grisaille painting, which is monochrome painting, and then we introduce color. And it kind of takes you through the whole program in this very kind of graduated way. And what I like about it is it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It's very organic, and it's very responsive to the needs of the student, because I have people coming in at all different levels, all different ages, and different motivations, behind why they're seeking education. So my challenge, of course, as a teacher is to try to meet them at their level and give them something that will be beneficial to them. And even though I don't speak any other language than English, I always liken this as kind of learning another language, because how do you translate a very complicated visual experience into a line or into a shape or into a color, and that's really what we're trying to sort of get at through the study of nature.
Well, one of the things I'm going to do right now, while she was talking, I've been showing you images of some of her work. I'm going to do that.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to put some stuff up there, just throw it in, just so people can see a little bit of that. So on a totally, separate note, are you watching any good TV shows right now? Do you watch TV shows?
I have a TV, and when I have insomnia, I turn it on, and it's usually tuned to the Bob Ross channel or the Antiques Roadshow channel. Or I've been watching the Best Portrait Artist of the Year. I'm really very boring.
Okay, nothing too exciting. It's not like no Game of Thrones in there.
No. And honestly, what I tend to read are like art textbooks. It's really bad.
Wow.
But,
what's the funniest art textbook you've ever read?
The funniest one? That's a good question.
There might not be any funny ones. I don't know.
Well, for people that follow James Gurney, he just republished a book that he released, I think like 2 decades ago, that he co-wrote with Thomas Kincaid. And I wouldn't say the book is funny, but I mean, he's kind of a funny, lighthearted guy. And a little bit less, I guess, academic and dry, which is my usual reading stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So what's happening this summer, by the way, in the Atelier program?
So I want to kind of keep keep the momentum going, this is the second year we've been doing it, and we've added more classes. We have many more opportunities for people to draw from life. Again, in my ever constant effort to kind of recreate the experience that I enjoyed in school, where we would get to draw or paint the model, for many, many hours, upwards of like 60 hours. We're not there yet, but we're going to continue to have life drawing opportunities almost every day of the week at the Visual Arts Center. We have a dedicated space that we do that in. And as part of that, we also can offer Open Studio to those students that are registered for classes. So a lot of independent projects will be kind of in process. And I also plan to eke out a space in that studio as well and work on some projects, but also while I'm there, mentor, because that was kind of the other thing that I appreciated when I was studying in New York. And I studied at what was combined into the Grand Central Academy. But when I was going, it was called the Water Street Atelier. And it was literally a guy's house, a carriage house in Manhattan. So we would paint alongside his SUV. But what was nice about it is his studio was adjacent to where we worked, and you only had to go through a curtain. If it was open, you could go in. If it was not, you couldn't. And you could watch Jacob Collins' work. And I thought that was as valuable to me to see a professional working artist, as any sort of instruction that I might have received there too, just to kind of be in that environment. Because a huge part of this, which I think Arts Bonita is about in general, is just building that community of like-minded people that all sort of share the same interests and passions. So hopefully I won't have quite as many tantrums or moments of meltdown, but I'm hoping that I can be a presence in the studio that can kind of keep that sort of feeling going, because a lot of people have the option to work at home, but they come in to work in the studio in part because of that social involvement. And people are like, oh, what are you working on? And then you can kind of talk about each other's work and get ideas from each other. And what happens just organically and beautifully in class is people start teaching each other. You start learning from each other. So it's really a very good group.
Cool. I mean, if you go to artsbonita.org, you can actually go and look up Atelier, and you can see what classes are coming up, and there's a lot. So Carol teaches. Just getting her here to be able to do the podcast was very challenging because she's teaching all the time. She teaches a lot during the day. She even has a night class that you're doing, right? Can you talk a little bit about that Tuesday night class that you've been putting out there to try to attract people into the program?
Yes. So I wanted, again, to offer more opportunities for life drawing, and also for people that are still gainfully employed or have families and other obligations that prevent them from attending class during the day. So this starts at 6:30, and it's just a 2-hour class. But it's open studio, which means you can, basically any media you want to work in. A lot of people come and draw, but you could paint. And we work from a live model. And just to kind of make it interesting, because this is something that I did when I ran an open studio out of my house, is every now and again we'll have models that are costumed. And sometimes, we have like cosplayers and models that I don't even know what they're dressed as half the time because I'm so out of it. But they'll, like we had Snow White a few weeks ago. We had a clown last week. And it's just kind of interesting to kind of paint or draw models that are not just sitting there, but it actually kind of injects it with a certain story or a narrative, and it's just fun, and that's what I'm trying to make this evening class be, is a little bit, maybe not that we don't have fun in the other classes, but it's a little bit more laid back, or I want the atmosphere to be a little bit more like that.
Yeah, they definitely do have a lot of fun in this class. It definitely feels like it is a home away from home for the people that are in this class. And
sometimes I wonder if they have homes.
They might know that is their home. You just got to be careful, because we had a cat that was living on our campus named Ninja. and then that cat got adopted. So maybe Ed might get adopted. You know,
Yeah,
could happen.
Could happen.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him in a day.
maybe Ed's already been adopted, and Ed, it was great knowing you. We hope you found a good home. Maybe you're in another country and you're learning a new language. I don't know. We'll see. I don't even know if you're there, Ed, but if you are, what's up, Ed?
He's on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, yes, he's watching YouTube right now. Okay, cool. So, are you into sweets? By the way, do you like sweets, or are you?
Oh, I was thinking of SUITE, like fancy
executive
hotel rooms.
suites.
Yeah, totally. No, but yes
No.
to both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you like to eat? What's your go-to?
Well, I'm trying to live a healthy lifestyle. Like I had kale for lunch, but then I followed it up with some Hershey bars.
Those go together actually quite well. You know, it's like you actually eat the kale to earn the Hershey bar. Some people just have the Hershey and not the kale, so that's really a good combo. Do you actually eat them together?
Sometimes I will admit that. I am one of these people that after I eat something savory, I want something sweet. So I definitely have a sweet tooth. And my theory is that the kind of work that we do in the studio is very, it uses a lot of cognitive energy, and our brain is essentially fueled on carbs. So that is why we have peanut butter filled pretzels and chocolate bars on hand all the time.
It's true. They do have a bunch of snacks in there all the time. So even if you have limited interest in figure drawing and just learning that stuff, if you want to go to a place that has good snacks,
you're going to get free snacks.
Just go to the Atelier program and it'll be there for you. Go like this. Move this way. Yeah. So that
rotate?
it's yes. Good. And
Okay.
then push this mic down just a little bit. Good.
Okay.
That's how it works.
It's now in line with
See
my
that?
mouth.
It's better now. It's better now.
Okay.
So you just have to, make these adjustments live. For those of you out there that are trying to learn podcasting, you can actually do these things live. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't take away from the storytelling at all, unless you do what I just did, in which case we took a hike.
The mic has to face your mouth.
True story.
This is
True story. Can you draw without the pencil facing the pad?
You can, and that's a rookie mistake.
Okay.
I have to correct people on that one.
Is it a rookie mistake to call it a pencil?
No, you can call it a pencil. Although I've had people ask me what is graphite, so I say, it's a pencil.
That works. That sounds like a poem. Like what is graphite?
It's raku, or haiku. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Raku would be another one of our courses that we offer in the clay program. Raku, we do those things nighttime. Okay, so can you take me back to the early days for Carol? That's you, Carol. What was your first interest in art? Where did it come from? Was it drawing in the dirt with sticks? What was it?
Oh my God. Well, you already told me we're not. People don't have to prove they're 18 to listen to this. So, so maybe I will gently infer what my first medium was. I was an infant in a crib. And need I say more?
Oh, right. Yes. So you use basically like a good artist. You use what you have
I had
available.
the materials I had on hand. And I guess I've always been... Yeah. No, I mean, I was like a lot of kids. I drew a lot. And I just never evolved past that. Mm-hmm. I never found other interests. My brother got into computers. It was kind of the early day for computers. Not everybody had computers in their homes like they do now. But we had one because my brother took an interest in it. And he got a lot of attention because of it, because he's a genius. He is a genius. And so I think that drawing... was kind of like my thing, and it individuated me, and it gave me, I don't know, it just gave me something like a world that I could go into, and it still amazes me like that you can have a thought, and I know thoughts are material, but they don't seem material, but it isn't until it comes out as something that you realize just wow, that was a thought just a moment ago, and now it's something. And, I still think there's that kind of pure childish joy in it for me, just sitting and drawing something. I wasn't really into like copying stuff. Like a lot of kids, I liked drawing out of my imagination, and I liked Disney, like the Disney animated films were coming back online at that time. And and I was really into The Little Mermaid. Still am. Who am I kidding? And so I would spend a lot of time drawing those characters, and that's actually what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to go into animation, but at that time in history, which is going a bit back, they were doing away with hand-drawn animation, and everything was moving digital. And so in college, that's actually what I majored in. Is I thought, well, I'll try this digital animation thing, and I can't say I hated it, but I didn't love it. And but what I did love was something that had absolutely no promise of money, which was life drawing, because I had to take life drawing as a requirement for the university in the college degree program I had. And I took it every semester that it was offered, even at the point where I wasn't getting credit for it anymore. I just fell in love with it. I think my parents were worried about me, actually.
Sure.
Come home with all these drawings of naked people, and like, you like this?
Yeah.
But I really just fell in love with that, just holding a pencil in a hand and just drawing the old-fashioned way, and not having anything other than the pencil, I guess, in between me and the subject, that it felt very direct, that experience with the model. Now, I'm not trying to diss digital art at all. I mean, I think it's wonderful, and I think they're getting better with having the media simulate that physical, tactile feeling of like holding a paintbrush and getting that kind of feedback that you get when you work with traditional media. But I'm very comfortable on computers. I like computers, but I just feel like, for whatever reason, just drawing and painting just seem to be much more satisfying to me, especially oil paint. But yeah, I forgot what the question was.
No, well, you answered it.
Okay, good.
You answered it.
I hoped if I just start talking enough, I'll answer.
No, you did. You did fine. She's very, very modest, because when you look at her stuff, like you would say, like, your brother is brilliant, genius. I feel, and a lot of other people feel too, like you are in that realm as well in terms of like the work that you do, the detail. It's incredible. It's jaw-dropping. It's excellent. So I think like this is where I go. Like if you're out there and you're interested in drawing, or you've always been into it to some degree, like it would really benefit you to come and study with Carol, because a lot of the people who come into your program, like they're there and then they don't leave. They just continually sign up for the classes and they come back. It's the whole experience. Yeah, it's the whole thing. It's the social aspect of the class. It's the friendships. It's the relationships. It's the teacher. And I just think that's such a big deal. And, again, if you're out there and you're looking for stuff to do, to go out to be inspired, like that's why Arts Bonita is here, I feel like, for a lot of people. And in our podcast we were doing the other day, we were talking about some people don't find their thing, till they're like, 40 or 50. And that's great. It's okay. You go through life, you do things, but hopefully you find your thing. Sounds like you found it like really early on, and you've kind of been going, like you're not really looking. It's not like you're like, oh, I really wanted to be an accountant and I just can't get the right foot in the door. But that's, where I'm headed. You've just always been on this track.
I have. However, I think it took me a while to feel like this was a legitimate pursuit, which I sort of alluded to before when I said that I liked figure drawing, because it seemed to me, it's like, I like philosophy. Great. What are you going to do with that? But it's, it can feel very... non-essential or, irrelevant in the larger context. So it took me a while to sort of figure out, like, what's the purpose? Because we have cameras now, right? We don't need artists to historically document things. We can take pictures. And now we have AI. So we can have, computers design things for us. But, I think that what helped me find legitimacy in this is really partly just finding that community, and then when I studied in New York, I looked around at the students and I realized, these are like actually bright people and they could do anything that they wanted to. They could be doctors, they could be lawyers, but instead they're choosing to do this. And I think I sort of bought into the whole idea that like people go into art because they're bad at math, or, because they, like it was just a default or something to kind of go back to, and it didn't have the kind of sense of importance that I feel like it really needs to have in our society. I mean, to me, it's essential. It's the air I breathe. But I think it's very easy to, in your day-to-day life, feel that it isn't, and we have other things that society tells us we ought to pursue. And, some of it's, makes sense. You need to make money to survive, or, or in cases where you have families or other people that rely on you. But I think that, for me, it was realizing just how vital this is, not just for myself, but I think for other people, because I suffer, like a lot of people do, from attention issues. I have a phone that I check probably way too much. I scroll. I'm an Instagram scroller. But when I'm like in front of the model, it allows me to be in the state of arrest where I can really focus on something. And sometimes it's hard work to focus on something or to see something through, to the end. It's not all about being struck with creative passion. And, a lot of it is just showing up and deciding you're going to put in the time to do this, but that you're doing it because you understand there's value in it and reward for having that level of attention on something. And yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I feel like, I think you make a very good point, which is there's a lot of people out there that don't even understand yet what the creative arts can do for you.
Right.
And I think there's kids, there's adults who just don't understand. Like it can fill a void. It can be it can be that thing that calms you down. It could be that thing that makes you feel fulfilled. It doesn't have to come with, there's a paycheck. Like sometimes, yes, I know that for me as a filmmaker, it always felt weird telling people that I was that, because it always felt like I knew what they were thinking. Always, as an artist, it was always like, oh, you're like a filmmaker, but what do you like do? It was always like, yeah, you do films. Yeah, you make little films in your backyard. I got it. So what do you do for money? And it's like, oh, well, I make money doing this, but I also have to make money doing other things as well. But for some reason, it's like that shame. It's like you have to feel shame, to be an artist. And I feel like the mentality of an artist is you have to love what you do and you have to get something out of it, because you're always going to feel it just feels like there's always downward pressure. I don't know what it is. Like there's some people who are artists and they're like, I am an artist and this is what I do. And they're just filled like this. You can't even knock them down. Like a boulder can hit them and they're like, I'm still an artist, But for you, I'm wondering, like, where do you have those like demons that come in, or those things that come in that kind of, how do you push through those things? And have you ever had a point in your life where you felt so much of that downward pressure that you're like, maybe I need to do something different? And how did you come out of that?
Entire decade of my 20s.
Really?
Well, I mean, you're kind of blown about quite a bit in your 20s because, you're still figuring stuff out for yourself. I mean, I knew I wanted to do something creative, but it almost felt like the pressure was kind of internal, meaning I felt like because I was able to do this thing that I knew was precious, I felt like I had to do it. And if I did anything else, it was like a affront to nature, or, and so I was putting that kind of pressure on myself, which unfortunately the consequence of that it produced a lot of anxiety around making art, which I think a lot of people experience, the blank canvas, all of that, because you go into it, and erroneously, I went into it sort of, thinking that my entire worth as a human being was wrapped up in this creative endeavor, which is wrong, people. It's wrong. And that so I put so much pressure on myself to do well and to succeed. And of course, in our society, succeeding means people give you money in exchange for your labor. That it was, I think I did everything but, pursuing that, because it felt like there was too much pressure in it. It took me a long time, and I'm a late bloomer, but it took me a long time to sort of get comfortable with myself and then come back to art in a manner where it was really pleasurable for me. And it wasn't something that felt like it had all these conditions on it. And now I see it as something I really need to protect and nurture. And so I will try to change my life so that it can support my art rather than, the other way around, which it had been for a long time, where I would kind of relegate art to like, well, if I have time after work, I will try to get a drawing in real quick before I pass out at 1 a.m, whatever. And now it's becoming something that is more of a priority, which I feel like I've been fortunate to work here at Arts Bonita because this is kind of really the first time that I've been able to just focus on art. I have a degree in graphic design, and I did that for a long time. And this is giving me an opportunity, which there's some anxiety in it for sure because, there's a lot riding on it, I guess. But I mean, I feel like I get to more closely just do what I want to do in this capacity. And I get to share it with other people, which, I am introverted, as a lot of artists are, and there's a strong part of my personality that would like to wall myself up and not talk to people for extended periods of time. But I'm realizing the older I get, how really important it is, to be in communication with other artists, because those moments of pressure, those moments where you're questioning whether you should go into accounting, which I would be terrible at, they dissipate once you put yourself in environments with other people that share your interest. I took a workshop over the past summer with Anthony Ryder, who's one of the first artists that I was aware of that was not dead and that was producing beautiful art. And I wanted to learn how he was doing what he was doing. It looked like magic to me. And it was like a 2-week workshop. I really don't remember anything from it. It was many years ago. So I took another workshop over the summer, and it was extremely, it bolstered me a lot in terms of like what I want to do and the kinds of people that it attracts, are all good people. And, it's just, again, I feel like I've totally lost the thread of this conversation.
Nope, you totally did. You totally did. Nope, you're doing just fine. You are listening to the Arts Bonita podcast.
Okay,
and again, artsbonita.org. That's where you want to go to look at these classes. We're talking to Carol Broman, who is the lead instructor and chair of the Atelier program at Arts Bonita. So you were just talking about the negative aspects of the things that might push you down to
Yes.
take you out of your art. What were some of the things that inspired you to keep going and to push through? Was it someone else? Was it something inside yourself? What was it that you had that pushed yourself to keep going, to keep making this like a primary piece of what you do with your time?
I mean, I make a joke of this sometime, but fate kind of tipped my hand because I really have no other skills. And that's partly because I've spent so much of my life doing this that, I'm not really, I wouldn't survive for a minute out in the wild. I know. I just don't have any other skills. So I feel like I had to do this, partly because, it was the path of least resistance in that regard. But also I think, and I don't know where this comes from, but because it's not really my personality. I always felt like I could do this. Like I look at really good art and even without having the skills at that moment to be able to produce that work of art, for some reason I looked at thinking I could do it. Given time and practice, this is something I could do. I also think there's a bit of, which I don't know if it's healthy or good, but there's a bit of jealousy too. Like I think I would look at other artists and I think, they're really good, and I'd want to know what they knew. And I thought I was angered by the fact that they had acquired information that I didn't have. So and that kind of drove me to seek out other artists. And I've also just been very fortunate because I've been in situations where I could drop my life and just go study. I ran out of money. That's really why I left New York. It wasn't that I got a degree or anything. But I was fortunate that I could do that because I recognized what a luxury it was, what a privilege it was to be able to study full time, 5 days a week, 8, sometimes 10 hours a day. So I think that I guess I just felt like this is, in my early years, I thought it was something I should do. And then as I got older, it became something that I really want to do. And I think that has allowed me actually to get better because I'm a little perfectionistic. And so, I'm not proud of, because I think that when you're perfectionistic, you beat yourself up and you say, there's a lot of negative self-talk. And it's interesting, I'm teaching drawing 1 students and I hear the negative self-talk like constantly. Oh, that's wrong, and it's funny to me because, I'm thinking, well, just move the line, or, all of this is right. Why aren't you looking at this part that's all coming together well? Why are you focusing on that part? But I mean, I'm a hypocrite because we do that. We tend to focus on the things that we're not doing right. But the problem with that is it takes the wind out of your sails. It's like you're telling yourself, it's like you had a unforgiving parent, or a parental voice in your head saying, get a real job, I don't know, or do something else. So you have to be really, without getting too cheesy, I mean, you have to be really kind to yourself, and you have to be patient. And I think that if you're not, it's going to be a lot of therapy. It's going to distract you from your goals. And I think that, I wish sometimes I could apply these lessons that I learned in art to my life at large. But I think that I've learned so much through drawing and painting and what it takes to get better at something. And I don't care who you are and what level you're at. I mean, I think there's nothing more enjoyable in this world than, feeling that you're running against time, because we're all getting older. Not to get really morbid on everybody, but it's like the older you get, you suffer certain losses. You have the reality that is your aging body. But what you can do is you can still put your energies into something, and you can get better at something. Now, maybe I'm not going to become like I don't know, an athlete or anything. But at drawing and painting, I can definitely get better at it. And I think it's great if you can be a lifelong student. It's one of these things I don't think you're ever going to feel like you've made it or that you've ever gotten, really great. But I think that's the fun of it. It's like trying to eke out little progress day by day.
Yeah, and Arts Bonita is a good example of that, because when you walk around these classes, you see people of all ages.
Oh, yeah.
You see people in their 80s and 90s who are there doing stuff, just trying to work on perfecting their art or just trying to do something new.
And I think that takes so much bravery. I mean, to be willing, especially for people that have gone through that trajectory in their life, or maybe they've had a successful career, they've raised a family, and then to be willing to be a beginner again, to be willing to potentially embarrass themselves. I mean, it takes a lot of bravery to do that. And, and I'm always so impressed by the students that I have that they're willing to do that. And it's paying dividends for them. I mean, I think that they're getting a lot out of it.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to remind everybody that this is the Arts Bonita podcast. So what you should do right now is you should follow the podcast. You should like the podcast. You should thumbs up the podcast. Or if you're driving, you should pull over and scream out your window to whoever will hear you, I love this podcast. Anything, whatever you want to do. If you like the embarrassing thing, that's up to you, but I'll leave that up to you. My last question to you, Carol, is this. What would you say to someone out there who is watching this podcast and wondering if they might want to try to come into the Atelier and just check it out? What would you say to them? How would you bring them into it? And what do you think, how would you describe that experience?
Well, as I mentioned, there will be snacks. That's the first thing. I mean, usually, this isn't a hypothetical. I've had people just literally wander in off the streets. Usually it involves just, you can sort of see, you already get sort of an idea visually from the look of the studio and from the various projects that are in process. So you kind of have some idea of what people do. I think part of my challenge is because a lot of people are intimidated by drawing people, faces, figures, is to not, I don't want to paint this picture that this is like something that is, beyond the scope of what they might be interested in doing. Now, not everybody wants to draw and paint the figure. I recognize that, but I think you learn a lot in these foundational drawing courses, and I'm trying to expand on that. In the next season, I'm going to have an offering of master copy classes, so we'll get to actually study what other artists do, which is of course critical to learning because you can see how another artist simplified or interpret something that we've all seen or felt and experienced in our lives. And you learn a lot through that process. So usually when I have new students, and of course it depends on their level and what experience they have already. Many come in with some experience. A few don't, though. I mean, actually one student in particular I'm thinking of, he had no background in art whatsoever. But usually the path is the same. They may just spend a little bit longer on certain concepts than other people that have, more of a background. But typically it involves copying, master copying. I use the Charles Bargue drawing course for anybody that knows what that is. We can plug Charles Bargue. He's also deceased. But it's called a drawing course, but it's just a collection of lithographs of an artist who copied another artist. So they are drawings of elements of sculpture from Greek and Roman antiquity, and then they're all kind of figurative based, and you basically copy them. But in this process of copying them, you learn a process for drawing. Because when I was in college, there really wasn't, you were kind of handed a pencil and you were said, try to make it look like something. Mm-hmm. And some people, in that environment, got something out of it. But what I try to instill is a somewhat organized process for how to approach something that's very complex. So you take it in the most simplest form to begin with, a simple sort of enveloping shape, and then you break that shape into smaller shapes. It doesn't sound terribly exciting, but it is. Mm-hmm. So there's an abstraction in it, which I think is surprising to people because you think of representational art as being representational from the start, but it's really not. And there's psychology in it, which is kind of fun to me, because we all have our preconceived ideas about, what we think things look like, and we use language to help us understand our world. And the unfortunate consequence of that sometimes when you're drawing is you tend to separate things too much or isolate things too much, and you can't see how things integrate together. And to me, that's what an artist is really trying to do, is trying to sort of find connection. When we think of music, it's not music if you just hit one note and then another note. Like, they have to kind of segue into each other, and it becomes a melody, and there's a relationship there. Chefs do the same thing with ingredients in a meal. Like, all these different ingredients have to come together and play well together, and then we find it delicious. I'm sure there's analogies in pretty much any art form you can think of, but that's kind of. I probably wouldn't say all that to somebody that just walked in the door. I'd probably terrify them. I'd probably offer them snacks, and then I do a lot of demos. So I would just go through the process and kind of show them. One thing I'm careful about, too, is even though I found these methods very successful for myself, I recognize that I'm an individual, we're all individuals, and there is no one solution. And that, and I'm only really, to some degree, parroting what other artists had told me that, really made sense to me. But everybody is going to come to their own solution, and I think that... I'm only offering suggestions about what I think is effective based on my own experience. But I think that I don't ever want to be in there saying that I have a dogma or a methodology that you can't, that if you don't follow it, you're kicked out, which I think some schools are that way. And I'm just saying that I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today. And I'm going to tell all of you out there that you need to get out and try something new. And if you got your thing and you're doing it, great. But even when you're doing your thing and you feel great about it, it's still a good idea to get out and try new things, try something different. I highly recommend the Atelier program at Arts Bonita. Am I biased because I'm the education director at Arts Bonita? No, I just see it like I see it. Right? I'm not. I'm just,
He's not being paid to do this now.
No, I'm not. And I'm not reading from a script, and I'm not AI generated, obviously. There'd be a lot that would be different. But anyway, I just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Arts Bonita podcast. Have a good night or day or morning or evening or dusk or dawn. I don't know what it is right now, but whatever it is, enjoy the rest of it. Goodbye.